All right, it's the truth about using music in your podcasts and online content and staying legal while you do it. So let me ask you this question. Have you ever made a podcast episode or a YouTube video and you thought, you know what this really needs? A great song to make it pop. So you grab a track that you love, maybe something a little off the radio, something on Spotify or whatever, and you drop it into the background, hit publish, and suddenly, wham, copyright claim. Or worse, your video gets blocked worldwide. Sound familiar? Well, you're not alone. Music is one of the most common and most dangerous traps for creators. And the reason is simple. Music is powerful. It sets the tone. It stirs emotion. It makes your content feel polished and professional. But with that power comes legal baggage. So today I'm going to break down the truth about using music in your content. So stick around. Okay, we're talking about using music in your content, why it's a big trap. It can be a big trap that you have to be aware of, and why it's always protected, why fair use almost never applies, and what your real options are, as well as how to avoid the horror stories, the takedowns, the demonetization, and lawsuits. By the end of this episode, you will know exactly how to keep your content safe, legal, and online with music. So first things first, music is copyrighted the moment it is created, just like any other work, whether it's a podcast episode or a film or a painting or a poem that you write or a book, all of those things protected from the moment of creation. Unlike some other kinds of works that might fall into the public domain, if you don't do things quite right, music is almost always going to be protected, and that is where it gets even trickier. Every recording has two separate copyrights we have to think about. First off is the musical composition, the work of the songwriters, the melody, the lyrics, the underlying music, the beats sometimes. That is stuff that's usually owned by those songwriters or the music publishing company that they have made a deal with. They've given those copyrights over to the publisher to monetize and turn things into revenue for them. That's the songwriter and the music publisher. Then you also have the sound recording. That's the actual recorded performance, usually owned by either the record label or the performer directly. So when you play Beyonce's Crazy in Love in your video, you're dealing with two different groups of rights holders. First off is the songwriter and publisher, and then there's the record label and Beyonce herself. So you need permission from all of those parties, really. So let's now talk about what the options are that you do have. Because here's the thing, you are not doomed to a life of silence or boring stock jingles. There are real legal ways to use music. Option one is to license it. Go find out who owns the material, reach out to them and ask for permission. Yeah. Even indie bands, especially indie bands, it's often possible to do that. If they aren't signed with publishers and record labels, they can sign over the rights themselves. So sometimes they'll say yes, sometimes they'll say no, sometimes they'll name a price, but licensing really is the gold standard for how to use music. Now, option number two is the royalty-free library model. And these are services that sell or license tracks specifically for creators. You pay once or you subscribe, and you get a license that is permission, music that you can actually use and not have to worry about takedowns and copyright claims. Option three is to commission original music. Hire a composer or a songwriter or a producer to create something just for you. Bonus points if your contract makes it clear that you are the one who owns those rights. That way, no one can ever claim it later. Now, option four is Creative Commons or public domain. Some works are free to use because they're in the public domain. You have to be careful because public domain means essentially that the copyright has either expired or that the work has been dedicated to the public in a very clear, affirmative way. The owner of that copyright would essentially transfer ownership to the general public. Now, copyright protection lasts a really long time. That Creative Commons that I mentioned, that means that the creator has given certain permission under certain conditions like attribution or non-commercial use, or share and share alike is another component. But be careful, because non-commercial means that you can't monetize that video or that track, the podcast episode, or whatever else you're doing. Now, there's one other option here, and that is to have an AI tool generate the music for you. AI tools can't own copyrights. Material generated primarily by a machine isn't entitled to copyright protection. So if you can get the prompts together to get a piece of music that you like well enough to use for your podcast episode, or underscoring, or in your video, go for it. More power to you. As long as it doesn't sound too close, substantially similar to an existing recorded or copyrighted work, right? Because that could still be infringement, even though it was generated by the machine. Those machines are trained on real existing works, and so that's what we have to be concerned about. All right. Now, let's also talk about fair use and where it all fits into this. Here's the short answer. I'm sorry to say, fair use almost never applies to music when you use it in your videos or your podcast episodes. This is a defense to copyright infringement. It arises out of the First Amendment guarantees of freedom of speech and freedom of the press. And what it does is it takes a look at 4 factors. First off is the purpose and character of the allegedly infringing work. Next up is the nature of the original work. How artistic or how factual based or that kind of thing is it? The next is the amount and the substantiality of the amount taken from the original. And then the fourth is the market impact or effect on the value of the original. Now, music is really one of the hardest things for which to claim fair use, because it is an inherently creative work. It's often used primarily for entertainment rather than a commentary, and even a few seconds could be considered the heart of the work. And there are markets for licensing songs. So the impact of using something without permission is a significant impact on the value or the marketability of the work. So unfortunately, courts have been pretty consistently strict about this, especially when it's music in other media. There's no magic number of seconds you can use safely. There's no 5-second or 10-second rule or 8 bars of music or things like that. And giving credit or attribution doesn't make it okay. Not monetizing doesn't make it okay. It's not about whether you're making money. It's about whether you're taking money or costing money from the owner of the original copyright. So if you are using copyrighted music without permission, chances are that's going to look like copyright infringement, and it's going to get you taken down. Let's talk a little bit about the risks, and they are not small risks. Risk number 1 is takedowns and strikes. YouTube's Content ID system is sort of like a digital bloodhound. It automatically scans all the videos that get uploaded and looks for copyrighted music. If it finds a match, several things could happen. 1, they could just demonetize the video. They could mute the soundtrack of the video, or they could block it, take it down altogether. And if you get too many copyright strikes and you're not able to defend them, your channel could be gone forever. Risk number 2, lost revenue. Even if your video does stay up, the ad revenue that it might generate could be diverted to the rights holder. Same is true of your podcast episode. That means they get paid for your work. Risk number 3 is lawsuits. And this is sort of the nuclear option, but it does happen. Rights holders could sue for statutory damages, as much as $150,000 for each work that's infringed, or for each work that you generate that infringes something. So that could really sink you if you're like most creators, right? So what's the takeaway? Music adds power to your content, but you got to be smart about it. Don't assume that you can sneak in the clip. Don't assume no one will notice. Don't assume that it's fair use. These systems are automated and relentless. So here's what you should do. Plan for your use of music from the very start. Don't treat it as an afterthought. If you're going to use a piece of music, give yourself lots of time to get the licenses you need. Budget for it if you're going to be licensing or commissioning the work, and explore those royalty-free options. There are some amazing libraries out there right now with tracks in every possible style. I'm partial to Epidemic Sound, but there's lots of others out there. I don't get paid for this. It's just my personal endorsement of Epidemic Sound. If you decide to go with them, it's a subscription. It's about $16 or $17 a month, I think. And it sort of puts you on the whitelist for anything that's in their library. So that's a really great way to do it. Now, understand Creative Commons and licenses before you use them. Read things carefully and think of it like this. Using unlicensed music is like building your house on land that you don't own. Sure, it looks nice for a while till the real owner shows up and kicks you off. So let me share a couple of stories. I had a client, a podcaster, who launched with a very popular song as their introduction. They thought it was fine because, oh, everyone does it. And within weeks, they were hit with takedowns. The back catalog, dozens of episodes anyway, by that time, were muted, and they had to replace their intro on every single episode. That cost them time, money, and credibility with their audience. Very embarrassing. Another client, a YouTuber, used background music from Spotify during their live streams. They just assumed since they had a subscription to Spotify, they had the right to do it. Wrong, wrong, wrong. The streams were muted, the clips were blocked, and eventually the channel got demonetized and threatened with being banned entirely. So they learned the hard way that personal subscriptions don't give you the right to retransmit, broadcast, or incorporate the works that you get through the subscription into your own other work. They don't give you those rights. Now, on the flip side, I've seen creators thrive because they did everything right. One filmmaker commissioned an original score for her short film. Not only was it completely legal, it gave her a unique sound that no one else had. And because she owns that content, she's able to license it out to other people, other users, filmmakers and others, as an extra income stream. It gets used in trailers. It gets used in other commercials and things like that. So that's really the difference between playing defense and building a library, a catalog of assets. So here's the bottom line. Music is too important to ignore and too risky to misuse or use without permission. Don't gamble your content on myths and shortcuts. Do things right from the start. And to make it easier, I have resources for you. We've got sample license requests. We've got other things. Head on over to easylegaltemplates.com. I'm sorry, podcastlawforms.com is the right website. Head on over there and look for those templates and things that will help you. A music license form is a good one to reach out to. You can approach your rights holders, get the licenses you need. It will show you exactly what to say and how to ask and what to expect. So firemark.com/license request for the license request form, and take the first step toward using music legally and confidently, because your content deserves to be heard without the fear of it being silenced. So I'm Gordon Firemark, the podcast lawyer. This has been Legit Podcast Pro, the show where I offer tips, strategies, and important information and knowledge for creators in this new digital economy that we're all living in. So tune in again next week, subscribe, like, do all the things, and I'll see you again real soon. Have a great day.